Welcome to the director's cut of the Stephenville Lights, a modern mass UFO encounter. Just a reminder, you can always check out the case file in much greater detail at thestatefiles.com. It's a fantastic website and archive of all of our cases, beautifully organized and designed for going down rabbit holes. All right, so if you've already watched the episode, this is where we slow it down and talk about what didn't settle once the story was over. This isn't a recap, and it's not a debate. For this conversation, we're going to temporarily assume the witnesses saw what they said they saw. And then we're going to see what changes when you make that assumption. This isn't about answers, it's about how far the questions can actually take us. But before we go any further, I just want to slow this way down. Because the moment you start talking about this stuff, people hear things you're not saying. So let me say this clean. We're not here to convince anyone of anything. We're not trying to prove aliens. We're not even saying the witnesses were perfect. We are saying, what if they saw what they said they saw? Let's start from the beginning. January 8th, 2008, Stephenville, Texas. The kind of place where if something strange happens overhead, people notice immediately. And that night, they did. Hundreds of residents, including pilots and law enforcement, reported a massive, silent object or formation of lights move across the sky in ways they couldn't explain. Not one story, not one witness. A community-wide event. What followed wasn't closure. It was a pattern we see again and again in high-profile cases. A flood of testimony, a scramble for an explanation, and official statements that didn't sit well.
This isn't a mystery because people didn't look closely. It's a mystery because too many people look closely at the same time, and the story still doesn't settle.
This is the Stephenville Lights case file.
Yeah, and I want to jump in right there because this is where people usually check out. When we say, assume they're right, we're not saying their memory is flawless or that every detail lines up like a blueprint. We're saying, they saw something large, unusual, and intentional. That's a very low bar, actually.
Exactly. We're not talking about exact speeds or measurements. We're talking about experience. And if that experience is accurate, then the conversation changes.
And if you're not willing to even try that assumption, then honestly, this episode isn't going to make sense to you.
Yeah, and that's okay. But for everyone else, let's keep going. The first strange observations begin around dusk, roughly 6 p.m. A few residents notice bright lights. At first, they assume aircraft. That's a normal human move, find the closest known category. But then, the behavior breaks the category. Around 6:15 p.m., south of Stephenville near Selden, a pilot named Steve Allen is with friends outside by a campfire. He looks up and sees something coming in from the east. Intense white lights arranged like they belong to a single enormous structure. Allen later says the lights were so bright it was almost blinding to look at. He estimates the object could have been enormous, close to a mile long. And here's what keeps repeating across witness statements. It was silent. The sheer amount of witnesses drives the credibility here. When hundreds of people witness an aerial phenomenon like that, it becomes pretty hard to deny.
Once you make that assumption, a lot of normal explanations fall apart. And I don't mean they get weaker. I mean they just don't fit anymore.
Hold on, when you say don't fit, explain what you mean in normal terms.
Sure, planes don't move that way. Helicopters don't stop and start like that. Weather doesn't coordinate, and random things don't behave intelligently.
And that last part matters because people always focus on lights, the color, brightness, shape. But the thing that keeps coming up is behavior.
Yeah, and behavior implies control. And control implies design.
And design is where people go, okay, now you're going too far.
But that discomfort is the point, because once design enters the picture, accident leaves the room.
Alan describes the lights moving, then stopping. Not banking like a plane, not circling like a helicopter, just halting. Then the formation changes shape, an arc, then vertical lines, then a flare, then it disappears. A few minutes later, it's back. This time, Alan reports something else. Fighter jets.
And that's significant because jets are unmistakable. Even if you can't identify the model, the afterburner roar and speed profile are very distinctive compared to civilian aircraft.
2 large red orbs are also described near the main formation. And this matters because it reduces the chance of you mistook one thing for another. Multiple witnesses are separating the scene into categories: the silent lights and the loud jets. All right, so here's where conversations usually pivot. Someone says, well, maybe it was advanced technology, and everyone nods because that feels safe. But I want to slow that down. Advanced compared to what?
Yeah, because advanced compared to commercial aircraft is one thing. Advanced compared to known military tech is another. But advanced compared to everything we know about physics? Come on, brother. That's a different category entirely.
And I want to be careful here. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm saying that's the category people end up in once the normal stuff stops working.
Right? And this is where reverse engineering comes up. And I want to clarify this because people misunderstand it. Reverse engineering doesn't mean we understand it. It means the opposite. It means we don't understand it. And we're trying to make it make sense.
Which is actually very human. We do that all the time. Then, around 7:15 p.m., about 10 miles south near Dublin, Constable Leroy Gayton steps outside. He sees a large orange-red orb low in the sky. Big, silent. Close enough that he describes it in football field language, the kind of measurement people reach for when something feels too large to process. The orb disappears, then multiple lights reappear. He counts 9 or 10 bright lights moving around each other. The lights align, and they shoot off northeast at what he describes as an incredible speed. And then jets follow in the same direction. All right, I'm going to say the quiet part out loud now. If something is reverse engineered, it didn't start with us. That's just logic. Reverse engineered from what? I'm not adding emotion to that. I'm not adding belief. I'm just following the chain. It starts with something so foreign, so powerful, it takes decades to even understand, much less recreate.
And that's where aliens enter the conversation. Not because people want them to, but because there's nowhere else to go.
And let me clarify something else. When people hear aliens, they think little green men or flying saucers. What we're really talking about is non-human intelligence. That could look like a lot of things.
And the reason that idea hits people so hard is because it messes with hierarchy. If we're not alone, we're not the top of the food chain anymore.
Also, Dee is an alleged alien on this show, so we're sitting here calmly debating whether she's real or not.
I've been waiting for this moment. I feel very seen right now. Boo.
This is why people are obsessed with these stories. It's not about the craft, it's about what it says about us. It's about what we may find out about where we came from and where we go from here. That can be both exciting and scary. Across the region, more witnesses come forward. A machinist and hunter named Ricky Sorrell says he sees a massive flat metallic object hovering silently about 300 feet above him. Others describe something enormous. Several football fields. Bright pulsating lights. Sudden acceleration. No sound. And importantly, the town itself reacts like a real place would. Not everyone is excited. Some are embarrassed. Some are angry about the media circus. Some are quietly shaken. This is where I want to ground this again, because people always ask the same question. Why don't more people come forward? And the Netflix series Encounters does a really good job showing this, not by proving anything, but by showing the cost.
And that cost is simple: money, reputation, survival.
And when we say money, let's be clear. We're not talking about people trying to cash in. We're talking about jobs. We're talking about credibility. We're talking about whether people take you seriously ever again.
And Gayton's witness profile matters. Elected law enforcement, a person with public credibility risk. If he was going to fabricate something, this is about the worst kind of story to choose. His reluctance early on is consistent with that. People like that don't want to be the UFO guy.
There are also intimidation claims. A witness reporting threatening encounters and strange behavior afterward. That's in the story, but we have to be disciplined. Those claims are unverified by public record. Stephenville becomes a media magnet. National networks arrive, international outlets call. The local paper is suddenly ground zero. And the town reacts like a town. Some embrace it. Some hate it. Some laugh it off. Some quietly keep their eyes on the sky.
There's also a cultural footprint here. Once you're labeled a UFO town, it sticks to you even when the cameras leave. That changes how locals see themselves and how outsiders see them.
Once your credibility is damaged, everything you do gets reframed. If you speak, you're seeking attention. If you stay quiet, you're hiding something.
It's a trap, and that trap exists everywhere in the world, not just in Texas.
Which makes debunking incredibly easy. You don't have to explain the event. You just discredit the person.
There's one more layer we haven't really touched yet, and it always comes back to the same thing: energy. On January 8th, 2008, multiple independent witnesses across North Texas reported a massive silent object or formation of lights demonstrating unusual movement. Military jets were in the region during the same time frame. Radar data later suggested at least one target without a transponder operating in the same airspace. Officially, it was a training run, but the case doesn't close cleanly because the testimony and the radar refused to collapse into a single explanation.
People can be wrong about distance. They can be wrong about speed. But when multiple witnesses describe something close enough to be visually overwhelming and still describe it as silent, you either have a very odd perception event or something operating outside the typical aircraft profile. Energy is power. Whoever controls it controls everything else.
And we've gone deeper on this in debriefing episodes, 0 point energy, alternative propulsion, but we're not going to go all the way down that hole here. The short version is this: if something exists that changes how energy works, it changes the world. And worlds don't change quietly. So let's land this gently. We're not saying this was aliens. We're not saying it wasn't. We're saying if the witnesses were right, then the silence makes sense. The stigma makes sense. And the endless cycles of debunking make sense.
Curiosity isn't belief. It's just honesty.
And that's all this space is meant to be. A place where the conversation doesn't end just because it gets uncomfortable.